Now I'd like to start my presentation. This is a Ruby Conference 2021. I'd like to talk about the TW trends for the visualization of the Twitter topics. I am the professor of the ITL Chuo University International Information Department. And I worked before at Mitsubishi Research Institute. 9 years before I came to Chuo University. 3 years ago, I joined the ITL, that is a new department. Before, I was in the Department of Social Information, but I moved to this newly made department. I am specialized in the interaction between systems and computer and humans. And also, not just viewing from the side of the human beings, using the information system, how about we can analyze the human society from the viewpoint of the information technology. TW trend I'm going to present today is the use of the computer to analyze the behavior of the human beings in the discourse space of the Twitter, the space. And this is the method to visualize the Twitter discourses and using the Ruby on Rails. That's why I'm here to present this topic at Ruby conference. But Ruby on Rails is at the center, but the related tools done with graph views and other tools and ad hoc use various tools. I use the tools which is most usable for the purpose. I didn't do everything on the Ruby, and I'd like to explain that as well in my presentation. Now, TW trends. In Japanese language, it is a tsuitore, but this is a system to understand the world situation from Twitter. And started on January the 1st, 2019, https with eojun.com, and it is open here. But it was suspended from January to August 2021. And I'd like to demonstrate changing the screen. I'd like to share the screen with you. For instance, this is 2021 000, and every 20 minutes we take the data on 16th of December, and 12 and 13 hours have passed, and this is a list of the Twitter trends in Japan. And then you can click each one of them, and for instance, if you click this, you will get keywords related to that. And I will explain this later, but this is a co-occurrence network. And then the Kinejiki, what is that? And the mistype, this is probably related to Pokemon. Something with Pokemon. And you can take a look at each one of them. And I'd like to show you one day before, that is from yesterday, that list of the trend that collected one day before, and after one day is over, you would see the topic map showing the interrelationship between various topics. So at a glance, it is possible to see the cluster. Let me enlarge it. I don't know what it was, but magnifying it, you can see the apex, the weapon analysis. This is a topic related to that. And here, Tsuda Masaki and Komatsu Nana, they got married, and this is a big couple. So at a glance, you can see this cluster or the collection of the topics related to one keyword. Going back to the text. So this is most easiest way to understand with this example. For instance, this is the 1 week from the April 28th to May 14th, May 4th. This is a very extreme example. This is only one time the phenomenon what happened from April 20th to May 4th. That is in 2019 what happened in that week. April the 3rd, there is a huge cluster. This is the last day of a Heisei period, and the Twitter trend is related with something, the last day of a Heisei period. And then the first day of the Reiwa is May the 1st. So the topic related to this is the first thing in the first day of a Reiwa period. So for the Japanese persons, the transition from Heisei to Reiwa is a major, big event. And you can see it visually and at a glance. I hope you like it and find it interesting, and this is how we create this system and operate it. As I mentioned before, this is application on Ruby on Rails, but the original data is from the API of the Twitter, and the trend data and the trend related. The Twitter data are captured from the Twitter, and get the data from the tweets in the Twitter and put into the Ruby on Rails. And this is written with the Python actually. Let's ABCs, this data can be given by this Ruby script, and the Python script is used to make it first, and then DB colon seed is used for updating it. That every 20 minutes upload it by group. Now this is a configuration of the table of the database, very simple, and this is a list of the trend, and the graph that you have seen before, that is expanding a graph, is linked there, nodes and the link. This is the n to n. This is the many-to-many relationship. Therefore, we have the intermediate table to connect between these two, many-to-many. Therefore, a bit complicated, although it is a simple basically, but the relationship is a bit complex. This is a concurrent network showing the co-occurrence, and as has been seen in the demonstration, you can use a mouse and you can move it around, and very interesting. And the topic mark is a static image, therefore you cannot move it, and it's not clickable. Therefore you cannot click one word and go into the topic. It is not possible to do so. This is just a static. Now in this system, these technologies are used. First of all, the data taken from the Twitter is analyzed with the morphemes. This is indispensable for analysis of the text written in Japanese. And then the words will be analyzed, how these words are contained in Twitter. And therefore, then we will analyze using the co-occurrence network. This is not too difficult, just a mathematical treatment. When you make a topic map, it will make a cluster or not is determined with the cosine similarity, the degree of similarity. This is the linear algebra. 3,000, 4,000 dimensions are used for the calculation. Rather difficult to have the clear-cut image for this mathematical calculation of the linear algebra, but this is the level of the mathematics too, and that high school students learn. So it is not that too complex. First, we take the trend of the Twitter using the trend API and obtain the trend in Tokyo, but now we have the change from Tokyo to nationwide Japan. So we take the Japanese trend, and these are used as a key and obtain related tweets. And the collected tweets will be used for the formulation of the concurrent network and then made for each individual trend. After collecting trend, these will be used as keywords, and the keyword search API is used, and the maximum is 100 at a time. So these tweets will be obtained, and then it will be fragmented using the morpheme, the analysis, and extract and count all of the proper nouns, and you see you get the frequency of the appearance, and then you get the stochastically probability of the concurrence will be analyzed. Now, concurrent network. How do you visualize a trend using this network? Starting from the morpheme. The English sentences are quite simple, quick. Brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, and all of these words are divided by spaces. It's not too difficult. On the other hand, the Japanese language is not separated in this way. So if you say niwatori ga imasu, you have to first separate into different components of the sentences. There are many different methods of morpheme analysis. I use a makeup for this. And Ginza is very precise, more recent, and I could have used it, but it was developed in 2018. At that time, Ginza was not available, but at that time I used makeup. And I experienced in that. That's why I use a makeup. It is very important. If you use a good dictionary, the precision and accuracy is better. And as a dictionary of the analysis of morphemes, Neolog-D is a new one. And by using that, even with a makeup, precision is quite high. Now, this is example of extracting proper nouns. Yamamoto Taro cry at the center of Roppongi, and going around and around, and these are the proper names extracted, and count the frequency. There are many different ways of counting the frequency of the appearance of the words, and you see many mathematical formulations, but simply put, what is the number of the particular proper nouns against a total? And the maximum is used and multiplied by 100, and this is a normalization, and the process is done after multiplied by 100. And for instance, Nagano apple is better than Aomori's, and the Shinshu people believe that. And the red ones are the proper nouns, and they're selected as the proper nouns. And then Nagano Aomori juice, and the Edomae Tokyo Shinkansen, and these the words are picked out. And the total is 19, and the Nagano appeared 3 times. 1, 2, 3. If you counted the Aomori, appear 1, 2, and 2 times. The frequency is 2. So 3 by 19, 2 by 19, and calculate the frequency, and that is the frequency.
So this time we focus on proper noun. So we don't have to worry about IDF, so we focus on term frequency only. But in general, when we deal with natural language, it's often TF IDF we use. As written here, the Japanese particle no, wa, ga, they appear very, very frequently, but they happen everywhere in every sentence, so the value is low. We calculate inverse document frequency to determine the value of each word. But because we focus on the proper noun this time, we do not consider IDF. So IDF take logarithmic function, so I will skip this discussion as well. So based upon such data, we consider co-occurrence relationship. So again, here's sample sentence. This is a sentence, simple sentence, Japanese is difficult, blah, blah, blah. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. English sample sentence includes such and such. So when we have these samples, Reibun, sample sentence, and Nihongo, Japanese, and Eigo, English are our focus. So Reibun and the sample sentence and Japanese, they appear in the same chunk at the same time. And Japanese and English, they're separated between the two different chunks. They don't appear at the same time. So Reibun, the sample Japanese sample sentence and the Japanese, they happen in the same place. So they have co-occurrence relationship. By contrast, Japanese and English don't happen at the same time here, so they do not have the co-occurrence relationship here. And we can calculate the co-occurrence probability. And then, based upon the appearance, we show by the size of node and also the strength of the co-occurrence probability, we show by the width of edge. To make it simpler, we only display the top 25% and then trend tartar sauce, chicken fry, shrimp fry, and tatsutake appear. So I think it's natural. They appear in the same context, same sentence. So this is how we display the relationship. Tartar sauce keyword, you acquire the tweets, and then in such tweets you tend to see fried chicken, fried shrimp, zangi, tatsutake. So they're often mentioned in the same tweet. So that was visualized. So that's a co-occurrence network. By having this network graph, we can see the contents of the trend at a glance. Because this is RubyWorld conference, I'd like to add a little bit about technical aspect. Unfortunately, the real-world computation of the co-occurrence network would require too much resource. So instead, every 20 minutes, the information is acquired, and then node and edge information are calculated, and the results are sent to the database of the Rails application database. And when accessing, it just read them out. And the drawing was done using D3.js, the JavaScript library. And then the drawing itself is done by Ajax. So it requires the Java application. Ajax application needs the exit. So, and then accessing the server to acquire the data. And this drawing was done with the algorithm called the Spring Embedder, which is quite interesting, but this is not a topic for today, so I'll skip that. So as I quickly mentioned, up to the acquisition of the data and the creation of co-occurrence network, and as a Rails application data they're stored. So the first part was written with Python script, db/zrb output. So that's where we have data. And then with bin/railsdb:/seed, update is done every 20 minutes. So why did I do this, such a cumbersome thing? To be honest with you, when I started working on this project, I was not very knowledgeable about Rails. So I just tried to do whatever I could do. So sorry about this cumbersome result. So the latter part of my presentation is about a topic map using cosine similarity. Well, this is to measure, analyze the relationship or the similarity of the topic. Here, the potato chip soba and Fuji soba kyoki no shin menu. So if you look at the co-occurrence network, you have the big nodes, Netlab Fuji soba potechi, and smaller node Yahoo News and Hankyu soba. So from topology point of view, they are very similar. So if you put them into the word space, they also show very numerical vectors as well. So in the word space, you have, well, horizontal axis has Netlab, Potechi, and Fujisoba, all keywords. So 3,000 or 4,000 or so. Vertically, we list the trends: potato chip soba, Fuji soba, kyoki no shin menu. So these are the topics of the day, maybe 200 to 300. So up to 3,000, 4,000 dimension, there are 200 or 300 dots. So the distance or how close they are is analyzed. So such similarity, how do we calculate? The maybe simplest way is to calculate Euclidean distance. So we see the distance between all elements, the 3,000 and 4,000, and then we calculate the sum of square. And as for the cosine similarity is to look at the angle of each vector. So this time, the similarity between the two topics was calculated as cosine similarity. Why do we use this cosine similarity? The value is from -1 to +1, but because of the nature of the data, it cannot take any negative value. So that means from 0 to 1. And we set the threshold value of 0.5. Initially, we started with 0.7, but now it's 0.5. And then we analyze. And the color of the cluster doesn't mean anything, just for the visual effect. So this is how the trends are shown. Connecting line shows the level of similarity or relationship. And to create a topic map, the Twitter trend provides API. So the computation is possible to be done outside. So I combine a Python and a Ruby script this time as well to create a dot script. So once the dot script is done, and then using graph viz, we create a graph and upload to the server. So get data.py, because that's Python script, and specify the date, and then all the data can be acquired from the date server in a JSON format, JSON type, and then we calculate the similarity using this. We calculate the similarity, and then based upon this data, we create a dot script, but that's a Ruby program. And then, as you see, the batch script is copied with SCP, because at that time this part was done with a different computer, but now they're all on the same server. Lastly, I'd like to introduce some other background and why we use Ruby to create a TW trend. In 2018, at the postgrad seminar, somebody said, why don't we create an interesting web application using Rails? And then we discussed and create the prototype. So we made a presentation at the Pacific Viz conference. And the team members at the time were these: myself, Poppe-san, Aoki-san, Nakamura-san, Kim-san, and Lee-san. Poppe-san was from Belgium, and Kim-san and Lee-san were from South Korea. It was a very international team, was very fun members to work with. And some other research project derived from this project I discussed. Well, this is about the analysis of topic cluster. You see the very neat exponential distribution, almost linear. On the higher side, you see a little bit of noise, but from 2 to 10, a very neat, almost linear curve. So why do we have this? Interesting. So I hope somebody can make some mathematical model to analyze this, because I haven't had a chance to do this myself so far. And another thing, another project ongoing is we look at the Twitter trends and realize some portion are related to TV topic. So we analyze whether the tweets were related to TV or not, and we tabulated the results every day. And then it seems that about 20% every day are related to the TV, and the ratio goes up a little bit to the weekend. Another interesting project is special day project. We found that every day is special day for something. So pick up the special day, and if we acquire the essay for that special something for every day, perhaps we can have the whole book for a year. And I hope some publisher would be interested in this idea. So if somebody from publishing company is viewing this presentation, please get in touch with me. So I think it's almost 30 minutes. So I introduced the technology we use for the TW trends. As system, it's rather simple, but visualizing the data using D3.js and Spring Embedder for co-occurrence network was rather interesting, I think. Also related to this project, there are other projects as part of the educational programs and using Rails, not just Rails, and the Ruby, not just Rails. So I hope I could share some interesting example with you today. And also, there are many projects derived from the project I presented today. They are ongoing, so I appreciate your support. That's all.